Now I'm like having thoughts about like what would the Borg Queen look like if she was actually like a real queen bee? Would she just be like sitting in a room having Borg babies?
I don't know if I want to think about this.
It's back.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Into the Wormhole with Larissa and Lauren. I'm Larissa Maestro, and with me I have my number one.
Howdy, Lauren Lowen.
And we're, you know.
I got nothing snarky
I
today.
know. It's okay. Here we are. The world is starting to sort of open back up and stuff. We're hoping to get back into an actual studio and be face to face again soon, which would be really cool. But in the meantime, here we are back on the internet together talking about our favorite Star Trek villains. So we've done one episode of this before where we talked about Dukat. That was really fun. Man, it's really fun to talk about villains.
It is.
Villains are fucking fun. And this time, we're going to be talking about the Borg Queen. I'm very excited. I'm so excited.
I am too. I was thinking about, is there some sort of like song parody we could do? And the closest I got was Dancing Queen by ABBA. Be that girl, she's the Borg Queen. Do. Doesn't quite work, but that's what I got.
She's in your head. She's in your mind.
Oh, yeah. That works with the Borg.
Oh God, that's funny. I'll listeners, I'll see about making a little parody song.
Going to assimilate your life.
Yes. Yes. Wonderful.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we might be onto something here.
Yeah, we're literally honest. We are now a cover band where we just make all the songs about Star Trek villains.
There's gotta be somebody who does that. Like, have you heard of Harry and the Potters?
Yes.
Yeah, there's gotta be some Star
There
Trek
has
equivalent.
to be. I mean, yes, there absolutely is. There's always room for more, though.
Right.
Room
Hey,
for
there's a
more
lot of
fan
podcasts
art.
out there, and we found room. Our little
Right?
corner of the galaxy.
Here we are. Oh my God, we're talking about the Borg Queen.
All right, Larissa, if you
Yes,
don't
hi.
mind, I have like a certain way I'd like to enter the conversation.
Yeah, let's
the
do
Borg Queen?
this.
Okay, so I feel like we need to start with the origin story of not the Borg Queen in Star Trek, but the Borg Queen as how she actually got created by the writers.
Let's
and
do
stuff.
that.
Yeah. Borg Queen came out for First Contact, the TNG movie that came out in 1996. And I think what's really interesting is that this is a character and an entity that was created for this movie. Like, yes, from a writing perspective, because they wanted to use the Borg as a villain, but they felt like the zombie-like nature was hard to really give the cast in the story. They realized that the crew needed kind of a villain character, like someone that actually bounced off of an individual rather than
someone that they could actually interact with. Yeah.
And sure, that's a writing issue, but obviously they've been writing with the Borg in mind successfully for TNG. So it's interesting to think that the Borg Queen came maybe more about from a business marketing need. Yeah. And I feel like that's a really important place to start, especially since we kind of had this conversation about Diane Warren and music and kind of like where we were in the 90s. Kind of the same thing with First Contact and where we were with the TNG movies in the 90s.
That's totally true. It's interesting because I feel like, and I'm sure we're going to get way more in depth about this later, but I feel like even though in some ways the fan reception of the Borg Queen as a concept was not very good, I think that bringing the Borg Queen as a character into First Contact was very successful as far as the movie and how it flowed and how it made the movie fun to watch. We both watched First Contact yesterday, and all of my notes on that movie are just, oh my God, I fucking love this movie. Oh my God, I love this movie. This movie is so fucking fun. I love this movie so much. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Those are my notes. Those are my notes on First Contact. So as far as that goes, I feel like, hey, nice job. Good job. But again, there are some problems here.
Yeah. It's funny because the Borg Queen was introduced, and even though she theoretically was killed off in that movie, it almost, in the show we always talk about, the joke is it's just like a hard restart by the end, like boom, we're back to square one. And when they did this for the movie, then there kind of wasn't a hard reset. It sort of changed the nature of the Borg, and they continued with the Borg Queen afterwards in Voyager. And
yeah.
I'm sure the books did and too.
Yeah.
But it brought up a lot of questions about the Borg and kind of changed their nature, which we'll get into more. But yeah, there wasn't like a hard reset. And I definitely have thoughts about, and I'm sure you do too, about if there were problems with the Borg, what could they have done? Another episode of like Larissa and Lauren rewrite Star Trek. But yeah, it's funny to think that the Borg Queen came out of a necessity to general movie going audiences. And I think what's interesting is now there might be a return to more writing with the fandom in mind, like Picard and stuff. These movies were definitely trying to be a little more accessible to somebody who didn't know Star Trek. They wanted people to come off the streets who wanted to see like a sci-fi adventure thing. They wanted the fans to come too, but they were really hoping to get a lot of different demographics who weren't necessarily the tried and true Star Trek fan.
Right.
Yeah. And so the TNG movies in general are just interesting in that way. Picard always ends up with like a tank top, sweating, and he's got like a phaser rifle, and he's swinging through things and climbing structures and punching Malcolm McDowell.
I know.
Oh, wait, or is that Kirk? Maybe Kirk does the punching.
I mean, I think everyone tries to punch Malcolm McDowell in that movie. I mean, I would try to punch him in that movie. You're right. It's interesting to look at the TNG movies and really think about how they were trying to market them and how they were really thinking about trying to make them huge blockbusters that were more accessible to more people who weren't in the fandom, and how that sort of is what the 90s was. Not just Star Trek, but it was like, as far as marketing, as far as like that kind of, everyone wanted everything to be the biggest thing possible. So hilariously, Dan and I are in the middle of a long stretch in which we are just watching 90s disaster movies.
Oh, yes. Oh, that was there were so many like 90s movie trends. I mean, I'm sure every decade has them, but.
Yes, but they're just like movie after movie after movie that's just like a huge, like the Michael Crichton adaptations, like that kind of shit. But also, we just watched Dante's Peak.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. That's the one with Pierce Brosnan.
Yes.
Okay.
And Linda Hamilton.
Oh.
Yeah. So the funny thing is that like from now my experience of like rewatching a lot of these 90s blockbuster movies, the focus is always on how broad can we make this movie so that more people will go see it. And I feel like that mentality has changed quite a bit. Like we don't really have, it's all as far as the way things are going now, it's all niche marketing now. It's all like, we're trying to like get all the nerds in on this. Like we're trying to get we're trying to market this to women. We're trying to market this to like minority groups, or we're trying to market this to like people who like a very specific thing, and it's not the same as like, we want everyone to go see this movie, because that doesn't really happen.
Yeah. The era of like the big tentpole summer blockbuster
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still kind of there. Like, it's interesting. I think like the, Avengers Endgame and all that. Like, I think that's kind of the end. But yeah, I mean, this is before you really had YouTube and all the streaming services. There's so many ways for us to get our media now.
Yeah.
Like that's what you did. You went to the movie to see the big film, and it kind of was the thing. Like, if you went to school or if you went to work, like everyone was talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, also, it's funny that the other trend I was thinking of, especially too, is kind of like you had, kind of the trifecta of like Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Willis. They always had something going on. Even if you didn't see, like, that was a big deal, and so I feel like that was sort of coloring this time too. That sort of like True Lies. God, remember True Lies? Like, there was always that, or like Cliffhanger, or this. In fact, I was even thinking about it, like, as far as like a good kind of epic action sci-fi story. A year after First Contact came out, Fifth Element came out, which I still love. I'm sure
I love Fifth Element, and we actually just recently watched that.
Yes,
too. Yes.
And it's funny because that did come out after First Contact, but I kind of feel like in some ways, Fifth Element is like a good example of a movie that was kind of able to accomplish that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think to some degree, there's this clip of, I forget if it's Frakes or Stewart saying like, what people want is for Star Trek to be an action film. And it's like, no.
No.
Like, we kind of like people singing "Row Row Your Boat" around the campfire, or like saving whales, or
we want a story. We want a story with our characters, with our friends. We want to hang out with our friends. Yeah.
That era of Star Trek film was starting to kind of give way to the TNG and sort of, again, the influence of that 90s culture. So I think they were trying to ride that wave a little bit with all the movies. I mean, there's just so much more.
I agree.
Phaser fights and all that. Yeah,
absolutely. Although I do feel like this movie does give us character stuff. Like, we do at least get to spend time with our friends in this movie. We don't see Picard interacting with the crew as much. Like, he has that one moment with Data where they're touching the ship together. But like, other than that, his story is kind of just him and Lily.
Yeah.
In this movie. You're right. It's you can feel the effect of the industry and the culture on the way that these movies turned out. And I think in particular, Nemesis is where you can really feel it, because man, that was just a disaster.
Listener, I am nodding my head furiously like, yes, you are right, Larissa.
Yeah. I mean, that's not no. But even though I have my issues with the Borg Queen, which we can talk about next, this feels successful as far as a movie goes, as far as a movie villain goes. Even though I don't think they needed it, I still love all this shit. It's still very fun. And the casting is exceptional.
Yes.
Actor, Alice Krieg, we think that's how you say her name. That's how you pronounce her name, is just superb.
Mm-hmm.
She takes it all the fucking way. She is so excellent. She is so perfectly cast in this role. All of the makeup and the costuming for the Borg Queen, that part where they just like have her floating torso and then just like insert her into her bodysuit. Oh, it's so good.
Which I read was inspired by the Captain EO Epcot attraction. Do you know that one? It was the one at Disney where like Michael Jackson was in it in the 80s.
I don't. I've never been to Disney or Epcot.
Okay.
No, I've never. I know. It's ridiculous.
Well, there was like a live
wrong.
action thing. I don't remember it that well, but it was there. Angelica Houston is in it, and there's her witch character like descends from the ceiling, will like come down and go up. She lives in the ceiling on cables, and that kind of inspired like the idea of the Borg Queen kind of. So for the listener, if you don't know the Borg Queen, when you first see her from the shoulders up, that is apparently the only biological part of her left. So she kind of comes out of the ceiling and is lowered by these cables into this completely synthetic Borg body that like snaps her in.
It's so fucking cool.
So yeah, that was sort of like kind of inspired by that, which I
Yeah.
thought was fun.
Cool. I mean, also Angelica Houston, another person that could absolutely play the Borg Queen.
Right. Larissa, before we get too far into our opinions about the Borg Queen, do you want to quickly just mention like what the Borg Queen is supposed to be in the Star Trek universe?
Yeah. I mean, that'll probably take us into where the problems are.
Okay, yeah.
So, of course, if you know the Borg, and I'm assuming that if you're listening to this podcast, you know the Borg, they're supposed to be an autonomous collective. So they're supposed to be based on the concepts of like a beehive or a termite colony or something, where every aspect, every individual that is a part of this collective is constantly in communication, and it eliminates the possibility of misinterpretation, misunderstanding, that sort of thing. It means that the collective in the hive is working at peak efficiency, and they're sort of working as one, which is like just so fucking cool. I mean, we know now that it's not telepathy the way that bees communicate or the way that ants communicate. They communicate through pheromones. So there just is no need for verbal communication that requires any sort of interpretation of any kind. They know exactly what to do based on information that they get through pheromones. And so the Borg is based on that sort of idea, that they're able to communicate in a completely clear and complex way. It's also the thing that makes them the most terrifying.
Exactly. Yeah. If you have an enemy that works that way, the Borg constantly get compared to zombies, and that's kind of the same way, where it's just like you have like wave after wave of these,
drones, again named after the bee drone, the honeybee drone.
Yeah, and it's like there's no head to cut off, so to speak. It's just like they keep coming, and you can destroy one ship and another one comes. It's not like another entity where it might be like, oh, if we can kill that general or if we can kill their king, like they'll just fall apart. And
right.
It's not like that.
This is where the problems with the Borg Queen come in. So the Borg Queen is, I mean, obviously named a queen after the queen of like
the hive.
A bee colony, a honeybee colony, of an ant colony. Sure, they have a queen, but this queen does not operate in any way similar to a honeybee queen, for example. A honeybee queen is basically just a baby bee making machine that the rest of the hive cares for and helps her make more drones. She doesn't control the hive.
Yeah, a sci-fi movie that does a good job of doing that is like the Xenomorphs with the alien queen from the movies, with Ripley,
Yeah, exactly. So the queen operates really as a part of, just a piece of the hive itself. She's not a leader, and she doesn't control the hive. The Borg Queen is the leader. No matter how many times she says, I am the Borg, I am the collective, she is in charge of it. So she controls, she is the center of it. She controls the whole thing. She can send drones this way, send drones that way, communicate with a cube and turn it around and head it back to wherever she wants it. She is the puppet master of the collective. And this is where the problems come up for me. Because that, to me, I mean, should we just go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, the way I like to describe it is the Borg Queen is a cool idea for maybe 10 or 15 minutes until you start to really think about it. And you pull on that thread of the sweater and it starts to like, hey, wait a minute. And I feel like the franchise has been dealing with the consequences of this character in a way for years.
Yes, absolutely. She was meant to make the Borg more scary, and what it ended up doing was making the Borg less scary, to me at least, because the scary part was that they were all connected, that there was no leader, that you couldn't, again, like you said, Lauren, that you couldn't just chop off the head and then everything's done. But basically what they did was write a head onto the Borg body that you could now cut off. And it changes the entire concept of this. I mean, you can't really call the Borg themselves a villain, this adversary, because before it was like, you can't reason with them, you can't talk to them, you can't really understand them because they are so different from humans. They have no regard for organic life other than to assimilate it. They have you have no bargaining chips with the Borg. Right? Like,
Yeah,
you just have to run from them.
They kind of just don't give a shit because
They
it's
don't
just like,
give
we just want to assimilate you.
Yes, they don't give a shit. That's why they're so fucking scary. They're so scary. I mean, that's why zombies are scary, because they don't give a shit. Like, you can't talk to a zombie. They really fucking don't give a shit. They just want to eat you. But the Borg just want to take your body and put stuff in it so that you're just like them. And that is a fucking terrifying concept. Again, like, as a person of color, like, that is a scary thing to watch too, you know, like the concept of assimilation. I was thinking about this yesterday, that in particular, children of immigrants are taught, like, you want to assimilate, you're supposed to assimilate. And it also means assimilating also means for us giving away part of our identity.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like removing part of our identity, erasing it, which is one of the things that's so terrifying about the Borg. You lose your individuality when you are assimilated into the Borg. So there are, you know, cultural aspects that I relate to, that I see there, that make them so scary. But like, then you like take this character of the Queen and you make it like all sort of like a personal thing. Like, she's, you know, like we have to talk about that, like how she's always just like, you're the special one and I want you to be near me because I need an equal. And
yeah, it seems
you
like
know?
all the things that they think are silly of individuals.
Yeah,
Because, you know,
she
wants Locutus, and okay, no, I want Data, or
Seven.
She wants yeah, and we can get into a little bit of like how they've kind of, how the Queen has been represented afterwards, because there have been discussions, whether it's in the books or just here and there amongst fans, about how like there's more than one queen. Like, if a queen dies, they just get another female queen, female drone. And it's like, okay, now you're the queen.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's sort of like, oh, well, she's unstoppable that way. Or there might be many queens all at once that almost serve as like their own little hubs.
Yeah.
You know?
I
like
was
a
thinking
node.
After watching First Contact, because they're putting organic skin and blood, I guess, in and on Data. I was like, do they just build a new queen? Could they just build one? I mean, because her whole internal structure after her flesh is eaten up by whatever gas is in engineering is all technological. Like, it didn't look like it was like there are some bones in there. It was like, oh, all of this is like, there are lights in it. It's it's like twitching. It looks
like the Terminator kind of.
Exactly.
You know.
It looked like a Terminator skeleton. So I was like, is she created? Are they doing surgery on a baby Borg? There's never really like a backstory on like where the Queen came from.
Yeah, which I actually think is kind of smart.
I think it is smart too. Yeah.
If anything, it's like, you better keep it vague.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes it's better. I was even thinking about this with the actually going back to the Alien franchise, again with, you know, Ripley and stuff like that, how they started to do this whole thing of like, we're gonna have the Xenomorph movies, we're gonna have Alien Covenant, and you know, all the ones where it's like, we're gonna explain the origin stories of the Xenomorph, and it's like, please don't
tell us.
It's like, I hope they never do that with the Borg, because at the end of the day, I don't know if it's really important that we really know.
No,
you know, I have seen some, and so. I did notice in Voyager, though, she says, like, I myself was species, like,
125.
She says, like,
species 125.
which is a very low number.
Yes.
So it kind of suggests in a weird way that she's been around for a long time, maybe.
Yeah.
but yeah, I've also thought about that too. It's like, God, it seems like to have an individual or this person. I don't know if it's accurate to say that the Borg Queen is sort of the Borg OS.
Yeah.
But it seems like to have her encapsulated into one entity of this humanoid, it seems not only inefficient, which isn't good for the Borg,
Yes.
but just dangerous. It's like, so if she gets shot or killed, you're all screwed. That seems very against the mentality of the Borg.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, we needed that for movie, but I almost feel like it would make.
I don't know if we needed that from. I don't know. Maybe we didn't.
I mean, we just needed the Borg Queen in general for the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They needed a singular individual villain, is what. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is unfortunately like the problems it creates.
Yeah.
And it almost seems like it would make more sense.
They did not know how many problems this was going to create. Like, they did not know. Like, they underestimated the fandom, y'all. Like, they underestimated that all of us would be over fucking thinking this whole shit. Like, they didn't. They were like, ooh, it's going to be fun. And we're all like, but.
Because on one hand, I do feel like, I mean, what kind of makes sense, especially if they're all, you know, connected, like zip, 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 zip. It seems like it would be the minute she gets threatened, she would be like, boom, I'm going to move my consciousness to another drone on the other, you know,
right?
Like she should be able just to like move herself to another drone. And that would be in a way crazy and like, we tried to kill her, but she's already downloaded into another drone.
And I mean,
I guess she can't even do that.
They didn't say that, but I sort of assumed that was the case. I sort of assumed that her consciousness was saved in the collective, and that's why she comes back. I mean, they don't explain that. They don't. It's not like they're like, oh my God, we thought you died in the past, before, when with the Enterprise E, we thought, but like. When she comes back in Voyager, I mean, like they're not like, oh my God, we thought you were dead. Like, it's just like, oh, there's the Queen.
Again, bum bum bum.
Yeah, exactly.
And we should mention that, is it Suzanne Thompson that plays her for a little bit in Voyager?
It's Susanna Thompson that plays her in 2 episodes of Voyager, or two-part episodes. Every time she shows up, it's a 2-part episode. Yeah,
but we get Alice Krieg.
We get her
playing
back
her again.
For the
so
finale.
It's not supposed to be that like some fans have been like, oh, it's a different Queen, but it's like no. Like Alice Krieg comes back to play that role again, so that's a casting thing.
Yeah.
So and they're obviously playing the same character. So
yes.
Yeah.
But we do
lots of questions.
We do also have to like throw in there the whole 7 of 9 in Picard thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Her plugging in. So I mean, blah blah blah. Spoilers. Picard. It's been out. 7 plugs herself in to the Borg cube that they've been studying, and they've been rehabilitating all of these XBs. And she fucking plugs herself in and becomes the queen of this cube. So that, I mean, I was like, holy shit, yes. When it happened, I was like, fuck yeah. But this kind of like goes with that idea of there are multiple queens.
Yeah.
And that any drone can be plugged in and become the queen if need be.
Yeah, this kind of like interface is something new that's introduced to us, which again seems inefficient.
I liked that they did. Yeah, it does. It again does seem inefficient. It did not solve all the problems of the Borg Queen, but it did like bring the concept of the Queen back, change it slightly, and make it exciting, which I was into. Still problems. Still lots of problems. Yeah.
Okay. I have a question though about like, have you thought about, so like for instance, I've spent a couple of moments definitely the last few days thinking about like, well, what, if they really wanted their cake and eat it too, like how could you have a Borg Queen and still have it not kind of just fuck with the premise of the Borg that was working so well before she was introduced? And I have thoughts, but I was curious about if you did. Like, in your mind, do you have some way they could have had a Borg Queen and have it work better, basically.
Right. I mean, I have also thought about this. And since we also watched Best of Both Worlds pretty recently in the past year, the idea of creating a single drone as a representative of the entity. I mean, they did it with
Locutus.
Picard Locutus, So that made sense, that he was speaking for the collective and he was not in charge of the collective, that he was now part of the collective.
Yeah, he was literally like an avatar.
Yes, exactly. So that, I mean, although the issue with that then with this character is that it takes away some of her personality traits, like she would then, the things about the Borg Queen that make her the Borg Queen are like things that sort of make her human, like that she's manipulative and she's vengeful and she doesn't give a shit about you, but also in a malicious way, yes. not in a like I'm just doing what I do to survive kind of way, which is the thing that's scary about the Borg. Mm-hmm. And the thing that was scary about Locutus too was that like I am now the Borg. I have all the information that was in Picard's brain, and now I just have more information and I can assimilate you more easily now. That it's the lack of emotion.
Yeah, exactly.
In a lot of ways that makes the Borg so scary. And the Borg Queen has lots of feelings.
And therefore kind of has motives, which also, again, is like, okay, she gets lonely, I guess.
Right,
but
like
also
she wants a best friend like that. It's like I'm sorry, it's like her whole thing is just like she wants to have a best friend. She's just she's just like out here looking for a buddy that she can hang out with and talk to. Aww. But it's like, but of course, like this is Larissa's take on the Borg Queen's motivations. Larissa, best friend moments, Larissa.
Yes.
Is like the Borg Queen just wants a friend. She just wants a good friend that she can talk to when she's feeling sad, like but like an equal that she can have like intellectual who challenges her intellectually is pretty much what we see her looking for. Not only in a partner, as far as like her admitting that she was there during Best of Both Worlds when, like,
yeah,
during first contact, like she's like, he's like, I remember you were there the whole time. That we didn't see any of that, obviously because she hadn't been created yet. And then her interest in Data, and then her interest in Seven, and then her interest in Janeway as an adversary as well, that they're always just like playing intellectual games with each other. This seems more personal than Borg.
Yeah, it almost gets to like, by the time you get to Voyager and Janeway, it almost feels like it reaches petty. Like,
yes.
It starts to become a little Saturday morning cartoonish, where it's like,
yes.
Shredder and the Ninja Turtles, like, I will defeat you.
Yes. You're oh my God, that's so true. Where it's just like, she just wants her way and she's just mad that somebody has like fucked up some plan that she had and now she needs to get them.
Okay, so before we move on, because I definitely think it's really interesting to talk about, there's things to talk about as far as like Voyager, and I definitely want to talk about the design of her. But real quick, do you have any ideas, and if you don't, that's fine, of again, like how they could have had a Borg Queen and have it work?
Yeah, I mean, like my only idea is that like she would have to just be a representative of.
Okay, so like another kind of Locutus.
Yeah, like that's like really that's like the only way I can think of
how it would work.
For it to keep the original idea of the Borg
intact.
And how scary that is, keep that intact. Mm-hmm. Like that has to stay intact for me personally as a fan. Like I need the Borg to just be the Borg sometimes, and that seems like the only way for me. It seems like you have like an exciting concept.
I'm like waiting to point my finger excitingly.
I know you're like,
screen.
Let me tell
Larissa,
you, I have fixed this problem.
I have not, Larissa, my love. So
Hi.
I have an interesting idea. I will tell you why I like it, and I will tell you my idea, and then I will tell you immediately why they could not have done it. But I like my idea.
I love that.
I think the Borg Queen would have worked better as not the status quo, but as a glitch. I think. Here's my idea, and like I said, this would never work in the movie, and I'll explain why.
I'm behind this, though. I'm interested.
I think the Borg Queen should have been one of the Borgs that became an individual after Hugh was introduced back into the collective.
Fuck yes.
And then, basically, because here's the thing. The Borg didn't always assimilate good people. They probably assimilated some assholes and some murderers, and people are power hungry. So I love the idea of this rogue Borg who either hijacks the collective or hijacks maybe just one cube, like the cube they're on.
Yes.
And is like, you know, fuck this. I'm going to be their queen. And then she can go back in time and do whatever she wants to. Sure. Like, great. Go get Earth.
Yeah.
Maybe she's from Earth. Maybe she has beef with Earth. I don't know.
Right. Right.
But that way, you just have, like I said, we have the Borg, the idea of the Borg intact, and it's just because of this little Hugh storyline that again we have this rogue female Borg that's managed to, and she has this. She's gonna race through the ranks and take over, and then have this army of Borg to do her own willing, and then they get rid of her, and then it's like, okay, reset, which is what we need. Here's why they didn't do it. Because again, fucking movie. And they're not going to go and have a movie to general movie audiences where it ties in the storyline of Hugh. That would be too much.
Right.
That would be too much.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it would not be too much. We could figure it out. We could do it. We could do it.
Nowadays they would.
Yeah.
But like I was thinking about it.
And that would be exciting.
That would be cool.
Dude,
that would be cool if that explained. If they wanted to keep it in a little movie bubble so that it didn't mess with it.
I mean, they would just have to mention it briefly. Like they would just have to explain it in a tiny little scene and just be like, why is there a queen all of a sudden? Oh, it must be because of this.
Yeah, like
continue
a little,
the story.
Yeah, 4
then
years
continue
ago.
The story.
I mean, because in the movie they even explain I was assimilated 4 years ago. Like they have to explain that to people who've never seen Star Trek.
Yeah, they have to explain the concept of the Borg.
Yeah,
all of those things. That is so cool, and I love that a lot because then it also not only does it keep the Borg intact, but it sort of makes the Borg of the victim.
Yeah, they're weaponized, basically.
Yes, which is something that we do end up getting in Picard. We get more exploration into each of the drones being victims. Mm-hmm. Not at the collective itself being a victim, which would be what you're talking about here with this concept, but just more interesting takes on the Borg as a group, as a collective, more interesting approaches to looking at how we can pick apart this concept to write more interesting stories that are still loyal to the original concept.
And they kind of take a teeny tiny step with Descent, the two-parter, where in this case lore has appealed to the sort of rogue Borgs that we get a little bit of Hugh back, and there's a small group of 12 Borgs that are we're individuals and we don't know what we're doing. But I like the idea of one of those Borgs being kind of this not literally from that episode, but just the idea that somebody would have been liberated within the collective and have more of a menacing agenda. And so boom, that's my idea.
Yeah, or that because I feel like in the Descent they depict these individual Borg who have regained their sense of individuality as so affected by their experience being drones that none of them are in a position to be leaders, and so that's why they all end up following lore. But it would be interesting to explore just the concept of maybe somebody with a different personality type that's oh fuck no, fuck this, I'm taking over. Somebody who actually maybe has the will and the wherewithal to get revenge on the Borg itself. And that's why they want to be in charge, because they're getting revenge on the Borg. You know what I mean?
Or like in spite. I'm gonna be
yes, like out of spite. And then but also maybe they're former Starfleet and they're getting revenge on the Borg and revenge on Starfleet at the same time, because they see Starfleet and the Borg as both responsible for what happened to them.
Well, it's interesting you mention that, because I guess there is hubbub that if Enterprise had continued, Alice Krieg would have made an appearance on Enterprise in her human form before she was assimilated as like a Starfleet medical officer, which I have to admit is like a problem, because again, she's like, I'm species. I mean, she can be an alien in Starfleet.
Species 124 or 125.
Whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, okay, she better not be human then if she's part of this other species.
Yeah.
But yeah, like she was supposed to be kind of like introduced. I don't know if it was meant to be more of an Easter egg or just as like a,
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I'm sort of glad that didn't happen.
This is kind of a side note, not necessarily for the Borg Queen herself, but I also feel like there might be potential to explore like who is the oldest Borg, or if there was like a group of original Borg and they're just somewhat different. Like maybe since that's something too. I'm imagining something where they're like so old that they're actually like embedded in a wall of technology, kind of like when you see fantasy and it's like, he's so old, he's part of the tree.
Yes, that's cool too.
But I feel
cool.
So I feel like there is the room, just as a side note, like to explore things like that. Like maybe there is like a type of Borg that was so early in the development of the Borg that they're just inherently a little different.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we talked about the fundamentals of why the Borg Queen maybe doesn't work in the larger picture, just so we can kind of zoom in and focus on Alice Krieg's performance and look in the movie and kind of just like, let's zoom in a little bit. First of all, you're right. Like she, man, like forget about all this stuff for a minute about what we said. Her personality doesn't work or the character doesn't work, but her performance is amazing. Like she's calm and cool. She's regal and elegant, but like terrifying. Yeah, like she plays the part really well as an actress.
And she looks so at home in these prosthetics. She seems so comfortable with everything that she has to wear. Like I don't know how long it took to do this makeup, but I assume it was several hours.
Yeah.
And she looks so correct.
Mm-hmm.
And not even just like that she looks great, she wears it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
in almost like a sensual way.
Yes. Like that's like she is so comfortable with herself that she's like, I look sexy in this. Like which is like really lovely and like actually kind of empowering, especially for a female villain too.
Who looks and I was talking to Larissa before this, but her look kind of is like almost like a Cenobite from the like the Hellraiser films.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. So I really like the design.
Yeah,
I've been thinking about this, so I'm sure everyone who's listening to this has seen at least a photo, if not seen the movie. But what's really interesting is that her look is very sleek and streamlined for a Borg. We're used to the Borg having all this shit on them and antennas whizzing about and lights and boo 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 boo, and kind of a more asymmetrical look too. It's like just randomness, and for her to be sort of this or like bring order to chaos, it kind of makes sense that her look would be much more streamlined and minimal. She has like we kind of said before, from the shoulder up, she is flesh. But she does have this apparatus kind of sticking out of her head with tubes that goes back. And I think there's even like a little like light node thing coming
she
out.
does look like she has a larger cranium. Yeah.
Well, true. Yeah. And her head might also be a little larger. It's kind of hard to tell. But her whole look is very, again, like symmetrical, which in character design does communicate like sort of an order. Now, in this case, it's for a negative character. But also that apparatus that she wears really does sort of mimic what you would see in like a crown, like an Elizabethan crown.
Yeah.
And as the Borg Queen, like that's kind of almost like a nice nod to that.
Yeah, it really is. You're totally right.
Yeah. And then her shoulder part, like the collarbone, when she gets lowered in, one of the best things is that this completely droid bodysuit, or just body that she fits into, it like snaps into her skin to hold her there.
Yeah.
And the whole time, I mean, it looks like she's wearing like an off the shoulder bodysuit, catsuit.
Right?
But you can see the little clasp like tugging at her skin.
Yeah.
And holding her in. And I love that. I just love that
so
decision.
good.
It's so creepy and
but also classy looking somehow. Like
yeah, it's like they really did take a lot of nods from fashion and jewelry
Yes.
and but put like a droid or a Borg spin on it, I should say.
Yes. It does look fashion. It looks formal. You know, it looks
Girl,
like
it's
formal
working,
wear.
yeah. Yeah, so I just really like her design. And again, like I think it needed to be a little less fussy too for her to work, and it doesn't have to be as fussy because if her body really is just 100% machine at this point.
Yeah.
Then
that's what it looks like to me.
It is. Yeah. So you don't need it to be biological and synthetic parts that are jumbled together. She's, like I said, a little more streamlined because of the fact that it really is just like you drop her in.
Yeah.
So I think that works really well. And it gives her as an actress, I think, a chance to really walk as she wants to as the Borg Queen. And, you know, she's not as mechanical as like Patrick Stewart as Locutus. And I think that was a smart move. And
yeah.
I think it was a smart move not to have all the, you know, the stuff on the eyes that we usually see with the Borg and the plates. It just gives her a chance to act more. Although I think maybe some people think like, well, it's interesting, like you said, that her technology is all later revealed to be in her skull.
Yeah.
I kind of like to think that it's almost as if over time just everything's been replaced on the inside.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's why she's so uncluttered with her face.
Yeah. Although part of what she talks about that she's always searching for is that like her definition of perfection is a combination of technological and organic things. So it's, I mean, every time she goes after someone that she's interested in basically kidnapping to be her best friend, she either is looking at an organic being to add technology to, or a technological being to add organic elements to. She wants the both. You know?
Yeah.
You know? Like,
That's
I
a good
don't
point.
think that in the evolution of the Borg Queen that she would ever replace so much of her organic self that she would become fully technological.
Yeah.
Or I think that her whole goal is to reach a balance of perfection that she sees is there between organic and technological.
Also, I am looking at some of the kind of full body pictures of her.
Yeah.
Because I really want to point this out. They didn't give her heels. Which I was like, did they give her heels? And they didn't. Which I'm like, thank you. Because that's kind of like this weird thing that happens is that you'll have
a Borg
like
with
Seven
heels.
has heels, right?
Heels are impractical.
They're inefficient.
Every way. They're inefficient. They're impractical. They're uncomfortable. There's no way the Borg would wear heels, you guys.
So thank goodness they didn't do that. Yeah.
Oh, I was always like, why? For fuck's sake. Like, no. Shouldn't even be a thing.
You were talking about like she's always looking for a best friend and like
the
merging of technology and organic, but yeah, that it would always be a combination.
That's the whole thing with her manipulating Data is that she's trying to show Data the sweet spot, basically. She's trying to get to Data's, we'll call it the H spot. Human spot. As close to being human as possible without completely being human. And then it's like always the same story. Every single time we see the Queen, the end of the story is the Queen underestimated her opponent. Every time.
Oh boy, especially when we get to Voyager.
I know. I'm like, lady,
So
every time? Really? Like you're gonna every single time?
Wouldn't you assimilate all that? And
Yeah,
then not,
didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you not assimilate any of that information? Like, I feel like you should have. I feel like you should have. Like, I mean, how can you fucking underestimate Data for fuck's sake? Like, come on now. At this point, we're gonna underestimate Data? Really?
I love it when she whips around and she's like,
Data! Oh God, it's such a beautiful way to show Data has been fucking with her the whole time, is that he does shoot the torpedoes, but he misses by just enough for you to know, like, oh yeah, that was on purpose.
And then he has this like 90s action line, which is like, resistance is futile.
Yeah. But back at her. Oh, good.
Yeah.
And then when he's like, I considered her offer for what is like 0.65 seconds.
Yeah. An eternity for an android.
Oh, I loved it. I'm like, oh, Data, you're such a good actor. Good job. He's been practicing.
Should we move on to Voyager?
Yeah. She really is kind of a direct continuation of the concept that we see introduced in First Contact. It always seems like, I mean, they bring her in for big drama. They always bring in the Queen for big drama
for sweeps,
yes,
right?
Yes.
When it came to the ratings. This is back in the 90s. Did they still do sweeps?
I think they did.
Do they? Okay.
Oh, no, you mean, do they do it now? I have no
Yeah.
clue. I don't know.
Yeah, back then they did. Yeah, this is when
no
it was
idea.
like, oh God, it's sweeps. So we need to get the ratings up. So let's bring back the Borg Queen.
Yeah, because like she was really exciting and she was, you know, a new thing, a new take on this older concept. I mean, I know that it makes sense kind of that they bring her back in Voyager. Like if you're going to bring back the Borg Queen in any series, it would be Voyager. Again, we can go back and talk about like that Voyager does have problems, but Voyager is also the only Star Trek series where like over 80% of the episodes pass the Bechdel test, which is a very low bar. But what it means is like here we are on this TV show where not only is the captain of the ship a woman, the chief engineer is a woman, but the adversary written in the episode is also a woman.
And they're not fighting over a man.
And they're not fighting over a man. Ever. They're literally, when they're fighting over a person, they're fighting over another woman. They're fighting over 7.
I know there's got to be so much fanfic about that.
Oh yeah. Ugh. I love it. So those aspects of her character on Voyager are like, I think actually kind of important because they continue this direction that Voyager was kind of going in where, you know, we're giving more women more screen time. So that's cool. But also, I don't know, part of it in some ways feels to me like, you know, like in a Marvel movie where they have like the female villain fighting the female hero, you know, like and then all the boys are fighting each other and all the girls are fighting each other, and I'm always
right,
like,
yeah.
Why? Like come on, Poison Ivy could destroy all of you. You know, but like why are we putting, you know? Anyway,
yeah, like the matchup. Like,
and I
they took a
know-
minute to say, "Oh, okay,
Yes.
you guys and you guys."
Also, I want to put out there, I know that I said Marvel movie and then I brought up Poison Ivy, who's a DC character. I understand. I'm just saying in general, the bad lady and the good lady are fighting each other.
Yeah.
Anyway, so part of it feels like that kind of because Picard has Q and Cisco has Ducat. You know what I'm saying? So it's like...
Yeah, no, I
you know?
totally understand that. Sorry, since we talked about True Lies, I just had a flash of like Jamie Lee Curtis. Remember she punches Tia Carrera?
Yeah, in the face.
Is that her name?
Tia, yeah, right?
Okay.
Tia Carrera?
Yeah, and it's like she scratches her for wedding ring. It reminds you of that. Where it's like, oh, now we have the little cat fight over here.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean...
Yeah.
Yes.
No, but I know what you mean
Yeah.
about like I hate to use this phrase, but like they're equal footing.
Yeah, because they're women.
Even though they're not punching each other, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Even though, like, technically, if you think about it, the Borg Queen has more resources than like any other villain in Star Trek, aside from Q. You know, Q, and Q isn't really a villain. Q is a fucking asshole. He's just a.
I was gonna say trickster, but I like asshole.
He's just a space asshole.
He's
He's just a fucking space dick. But the Borg Queen has, like, as a villain, is just like, she can do anything. She has so much power and she has so many resources. So, like, she is actually the most scary villain as far as that shit goes. Like, she
should be. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not that, like, they're pairing her and Janeway together because, like, it's a girls' party and this is a girls' fight. Because, like, any Starfleet captain, any of our captains, any of our starring captains would have trouble with her.
Yeah. I mean,
you know?
Again, First Contact, she was
right?
Paired with Picard. Yeah,
she almost destroyed the human race, you guys. She almost destroyed the entire fucking human race. Remember this.
I think what's interesting, though, is that from, in First Contact, she acts... Well, not just acts, like she kind of like knows. She's like, I am so superior to all of you fuckers. You know, like she really looks down on humankind.
Yes. And then, I wrote that she's a snob.
Yeah. And she does like continue it in Humankind. Like there's one point she's talking to Seven in Dark Frontier and she's like, got a hologram of a human up and is talking basically about how inadequate we are.
Yeah.
But yet she's like so into, she just can't keep her hands off the humans. Like there's so many different species in the universe. It's like, if anything, it's like, why are you so obsessed with
humans?
All these plans to get Earth if we're really just like ants.
Right?
Yeah. Like if we're not that awesome in any way. I don't know. Maybe our tech is, but.
Is it like
I just kind of thought that was funny.
And Starfleet is like mainly human.
Yeah, and so like it kind of goes from her being, I'm superior in First Contact, and then the way I felt like they kind of started to write her a little bit in Voyager is that like Janeway and Borg Queen are supposed to be like equal adversaries of the minds, and it's like no, it shouldn't be that way. Like the Borg Queen should still be superior and scary as fuck.
Absolutely.
And instead it had almost like you were talking about, DC and Marvel. It almost did start to feel like a Joker Batman or a, like a villain good guy thing where it's like, oh, it's you versus me again.
And that's, again, one of the reasons why the like Borg Queen looking for her best friend thing just doesn't like really work for me. Like,
do you think she was looking for a pet?
Yes.
That would be more accurate.
Yeah, looking for a pet. But at the same time, it's like, why do you fucking need a pet, though?
Assimilate a dog.
Right? I just, like, I guarantee, like, excellent and advanced scientific minds in your collective already that you have assimilated. Like, why are you going back for 7?
Because sweeps. Sweeps,
because
Larissa.
I forgot.
It's sweeps.
Yeah. So I mean, like, in general, I will say that, like, even though I do, as a consumer of like fun media like this, enjoy when she comes back, as like a very intense fan of Star Trek and someone who is also a fan of critical thinking, she doesn't work. It doesn't. It's fun to watch. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, it's. I do want to say though that Suzanne. Damn it, we just said her name. Is it Suzanne or Susanna?
Susanna Thompson.
Susanna Thompson.
Yes.
I want to say, she does take over the role for a little bit in Voyager until Alice Krieg does come back. I want to give her an honorable mention. Yeah. I think she did a damn fine job trying to fill those Borgie shoes.
She really does.
It's like, unless you've just seen First Contact, it's like you're fooled enough.
Yes, absolutely. Completely.
So good for her. I do think the I don't know if you caught the assembly scene of Voyager from Dark Frontier.
Oh no, I didn't.
Because it's it's horribly wonderful because Voyager was in that area of the 90s where we were starting to get more CGI in TV, and a lot of the computer graphics in Voyager are hilariously bad.
Oh my god, I love it.
And have like completely wrong lighting, and on our TVs today look very cringeworthy.
Fucking see everything. You can fucking see everything. I know. We watched Jurassic Park last night. And you can see, you're like, that's an animatronic. That's CGI. That's animatronic. That's CGI.
Well,
but it's also like,
it's still better than a Voyager
it's
TV
still
episode,
better
I'm
than
sure.
Voyager.
But
I mean, they had Spielberg money, so.
So
they had Amblin money.
The assembly scene, it is funny because whereas like the First Contact one is much simpler. Like she just gets lowered into her
it's very
whole
elegant.
body.
It's very elegant.
Yeah. There is sort of this like flowy quality. In this one, she gets lowered down in Voyager, but like they decided they were going to make it even cooler, and like her torso comes up, and then there's these robot like grappling things that
I remember this.
Poo, 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 and they put on her arms and legs, and the graphics just don't hold up. So it looks really cartoony and unnecessary too. It's like her body should just be. Yeah.
Why do they have to reassemble her limbs as well every single time? That doesn't seem efficient. But
I was just like, oh man, and her like spine's waving. But again, it's just in 2021 you could.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. I mean, whenever she shows up, it's fun. I think my favorite is Unimatrix Zero.
Okay, I've seen that one definitely in the last year or so, like the last 9 months, but I did not rewatch it for this episode.
Yeah,
but that one's just like an interesting Borg concept.
That's why I think that one's my favorite, because it's cool. It's cool on so many different levels. The fact that like drones could regain individuality in a subconscious place is really interesting. The fact that like they could then like lucid dream together and create a resistance movement in that place is really interesting. But then like the Borg Queen is just like, again, like vengeful, like wanting to she's just trying to shut down anyone who opposes her, but also still trying to like catch Seven.
Yeah, it's almost like with the Borg Queen. I mean, we were just talking about Unimatrix Zero. It's almost like if you're going to do something quirky with the Borg, Borg, okay, you have the technology aspect.
Yeah.
Or you have like the human, or not human, but the biological
organic
aspect. Yeah. Oh yeah, organic. Thank you. That's the word I've been thinking of this whole time. And it seems like with Unimatrix Zero, that's more like them approaching it from the technology side, as far as like I was kind of saying, like, what happens if there's a glitch? Then how does this work? You know? And it seems like with the Borg Queen, there was more of a lean towards the organic side. Mm-hmm. Throughout the years, it seems like to some degree, maybe not Unimatrix Zero, but at least the ones like Endgame and Dark Frontier and stuff, they kind of dig her a little bit more into a hole each time she shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happens. Like you said, it's fun, and that's what happened to First Contact. Like, it is fun. I'm sure when that trailer came out, people were like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
and then again, it's like after 10 or 15 minutes, you're like, "Hey, wait a minute," and it's like she was inspired by nature. She was inspired again by like the hive and more like bugs, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not really how bugs work.
Which is cool.
It'd be interesting if they approached her more as, like I said, like an OS or.
Right.
Like what would she be the equivalent if you looked at it more from a technology standpoint?
Yeah,
whether there's one queen or multiple queens.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree with that. Because like it could still be a play on the concept of a queen bee, but it would then take it in sort of more wild, potentially sci-fi directions, because if you take it in the technological direction, there's sort of more room to be imaginative there, because if you're like really just relying on the concept of the queen bee, like there is research, like we know what those things do. We know what a queen bee is and we know what she does, but like the technology part, I mean, that's where like sci-fi can really get bonkers, is like we don't know what we're going to invent in the future. Like even we even have seen that science fiction, specifically Star Trek, has inspired technological innovation in our culture. So like why not think about like something that might happen in the programming, something that might happen or like, you know, the concept of relating the evolution of technology to biological evolution and how there are places where those things look alike in some ways, you know?
Yeah, and just from a writing standpoint, like maybe that foundation. And I agree, like sure, have the whole metaphor of like the Queen Borg and the Queen Bee, but yeah, maybe.
But she's not
thinking about the foundation of
yeah,
how she works more from a technological point. Again, whether that's the way things are supposed to be, or like I was saying earlier, she's like a glitch or an anomaly. Yeah,
right.
She's malware.
It's still fun. It's still fun, you guys. Like I'm not trying to shit on the Borg Queen. I just think we got to be real. You know, there are things.
Well, the Borg Queen has definitely made her mark not only in Star Trek but sci-fi and kind of like movie history. She's on a lot of lists for like best sci-fi villains and women villains, and you know, so yeah. I mean, just like a lot of things, sometimes it. What did you say? Like there are problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, she definitely. If they wanted to make an impact of her, they did.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. Also, I kind of want to close with a couple years ago, there was a Netflix holiday poster, and I'm going to try to find the image and post it because it's amazing. Alice Krieg was in a Netflix holiday movie, and so they made a poster with like characters from a whole bunch of Netflix holiday movies on it, but they accidentally put her as the Borg Queen on this poster.
What? How does that even happen?
It was like the Borg made the poster. You know, it was like an AI made the poster because it was just like,
oh no.
It was like, here's Vanessa Hudgens and then here's Alice Krieg as the Borg Queen.
Oh my
on
god.
this poster. And I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? And why? And like nobody caught this. Like her head with the stuff, like with the technology coming out of it and all, because it does look like she's from far away, like she's wearing an evening dress or something, like an evening gown. It is fucking hilarious. It is like, I'm gonna find it because we need to post it because it's amazing. Yeah. So this is a real thing that exists. I don't know if anyone at Netflix ever noticed, but I did.
Oh my god, that is
noticed.
Hilarious. Her and that HR Giger-esque like thing coming out of her head.
Yep. And she's standing there, and here like a bunch of people like wearing suits and like in mittens and like Christmas tree in the background and the Borg Queen.
Oh my god.
It makes no sense. It's so stupid.
Find us in the collective at intothewormhole.show, on Instagram at intothewormhole.podcast. Into the Wormhole is brought to you by We Own This Town.
I commented on his post. I was like, why is the Borg Queen on this poster?
That's awesome.
And he was like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, I didn't notice it. And I was like,
that is so weird.
That's the Borg Queen. What?